Okay guys, so welcome to this video where I am joined by the lovely Lucinda Fredericks and Purdy, who we'll talk about in a little moment. It's fine, we can have horses come through, don't worry, people aren't fussed on this channel. So, we are going to have a little discussion about Brit, who was your mare, HEADLEY BRITANNIA.
It's a working yard, isn't it?
That's what we like. So, as many of you will know, Bear is going to be having a foal this year, and her mother-in-law, Mum keeps telling me to not call her that, but that's what I'm calling Brit, is Bear's mother-in-law. So Ron's mum was actually HEADLEY BRITANNIA, and we're going to have a little discussion about her and hopefully go through some of your memories with her and just what she was like to ride, if possible. But I feel like firstly we need to introduce the lovely Purdy. So she is...
She's Pure Britannia.
Pure Britannia.
Yeah. So her proper name is Pure Britannia, known as Purdy. So she's homebred. So Marley's her father.
Yeah.
And then her mother is a horse called Flicker in Fashion 2, whose mother was Prada, who was placed at Badminton with me.
Some very good breeding here.
Yes.
Hopefully. So she'll be Brit's granddaughter as well, which will be what we are hopefully breeding too. So, for anyone who doesn't know about, firstly you, Lucinda, can we have a little tiny bit of bio on you?
Tiny? I'm that old, it can't be tiny. I born in Africa. Parents were Army, or my father was Army. Went to school in Dorset and ended up being a pony mad kid. My parents weren't horsey, completely pony mad kid, and my dream from the age of realistically 12 was to live a life with horses.
Yeah.
And my three ambitions were to win Badminton, go to the Olympics, and make enough money to pay for it all.
Yeah.
So for me that was quite, quite an ambitious plan, considering I didn't come from, a horsey background or a wealthy background. We lived in army quarters, so everything, the stables were rented from all the way through. So the only way I did it, I came out of school at 16, didn't do A-levels, I wasn't actually allowed to stay at school. Apparently I wasn't a very good influence.
Bit of a rebel here, guys.
Just wasn't a good influence on the academics.
Yeah.
So very sporty, and then came straight out and went and did a car mechanic course and bought and sold cars. And then moved into lorries, horse lorries, and then horses. Yeah.
Wow. So you can fix your lorry if it breaks down at an event?
Not now.
Not anymore.
No. I was good with the real basic, car mechanic course is pretty basic when you're 17. But I got my car, my car license like straight away.
Yeah.
4 lessons, took it in a Mini because I wasn't very good at parking. And that was an Aldershot. And, it was easier then. Now it's a bit more serious trying to get your car licence. But I might add, I'm very proud because Ellie passed last week.
I did see that, I did. 5
lessons.
Oh, there you go, guys. That's
apparently I had nothing to do with it. The fact that I drove with her all winter. So then got into buying and selling the horses. My mum was my biggest support, and she was my #1 groom. So. Yeah.
Just like my lovely mum stood behind the camera right now. And I feel like you're being very modest because you did achieve the goal of winning Badminton.
I did.
And getting to the Olympics.
Thank you to Brit though.
Well, that's what I was going to move on to. So Brit, HEADLEY BRITANNIA, but stable name was Brit.
So she came to me with a working pupil when she was probably 6.
Yeah.
And Emma Robson was a working pupil of mine, and she had another good horse called Fredinsky, and Brit was like her second horse.
Yeah. So
she ended up being with us for a year, and then Emma left after her position finished, and then she went she actually gave up and went to Australia. So her dad rang me and said, would I have Brit to sell her? So she came to me to be sold at the end of 2001, and I had 3 good riders come and try her, and they went, oof, no thanks. One of them even pulled her up at the cross pole and said, oh, no thanks. I went, okay.
Won't name those riders.
No. So I said to be fair, one of them did want her.
Okay.
Lisa Maynard.
Okay.
She did want her, but you couldn't touch Brit's ears because she had this white plaque in them all her life.
Yeah.
And the owners said, oh, you know, you've got to take your rider off. Oh, I can't deal with all that. So she didn't buy her. Regretted it ever since.
I can imagine.
And then, yeah. And so in 2002, I said, look, you know, I'm going to have to compete her because her record wasn't very good. She was only intermediate. And then I just had to, you know, get some sort of record on her.
Yeah.
So we did. I went to Bramham. She jumped a double clear at Bramham. I went to Gatcombe. She was, I think, second in the intermediate championships behind William Fox-Pitt, and then went to Blenheim and was lying 6th overnight before Showjumping. Ended up winning it. She was the only one that jumped clear. Then I managed to buy, I got a friend of mine in Hong Kong, Katinga Thorburn, to actually buy her for me.
Yeah.
And then we kept her, and we earned a half share of her over the next couple of years.
Wow.
Yeah, and then of course I bought her and then got pregnant. My one time I got pregnant.
Shout out Ellie.
Yeah, well done. And then she had 2003. 2004 came, and I was trying to qualify for Athens, and I ended up being a bit greedy, running her too much, you know, and making the odd mistake. You know, I fell off her. Actually, I had my one fall off her at Samuel. And then I went to Punchestown. The ground was dreadful, so I did the dressage, came home.
Yeah.
That was an expensive dressage test. And then I thought, you know what? I'm not going to rush this. Came back, went to Limousin the following year, and she fell in the water at fence 6, and came home and was terribly sick. I mean, they thought she was going to die. She had picked up some virus, and they said, look, you know, I don't know if she's going to survive, and if she does, you need to wait for 6 months.
Yeah.
2 months later, she's like, oh, I'm here.
Ready to compete again,
yes,
Mum.
Yeah, so we got her going, and so from the 1st of July, where she was literally on death's door, she competed at the end of August, and then went to Buccleuch and was 5th, and then went to Limousin the following year and was 3rd in 4-star, reserved for the World Games at Aachen in that year, 2006. Was reserved for Australia, so we went to Burley and won that. The following year won Badminton in 2007, went to the Olympics in 2008, 2008 and got her silver medal, and then went to Kentucky. And you know,
And
you could not
how
have
did
asked.
Kentucky go?
We won that.
Yeah, you won that as well.
But you could not have asked for, you know, Kentucky would have been my best win, because her best test was at the Olympics,
Yeah.
without doubt. Her best cross-country round, probably the most exhilarating round, was possibly Kentucky.
Wow.
I didn't really enjoy Badminton because it was the year where it was just so hard. And it was
Right.
very tricky politically. We had dreadful, you know, the riders were sort of going into lockdown because the ground was so appalling. So that was quite tricky, but I think she was the first, she was the only mare, or the first mare to have won it for 53 years.
Yeah.
And then she also did, she also went, did a dressage on the Thursday. It's really unusual to win from the Thursday. I think it's been done since.
Little stat for you there, guys.
Yeah, lots. And then of course after she won Badminton is when she went to stud to Tremnose and did the 2 embryos, hence Britannia's male and Little Britannia. And we still think they're the only foals ever born the year that both parents were actually at the Olympics.
Oh wow!
And Brit and
That's
Jaguar
really
Mare
cool.
met in the sort of stable compound at Beijing in
Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
Yeah,
It's love at first sight. That is really, really sweet.
Well, I mean, they were sort of this far apart.
Yeah.
Social distancing,
Of course, yeah, they knew you like them.
So, yeah, there's a lot of stories there. You know, and there've been some great mares since. But I think for Brit, she really wasn't that talented. You know, she moved like a
Yeah, I've seen read a few articles and seen a few videos where people have just been like, yeah, she wasn't like this big, extravagant mover. It was really like her attitude that kind of.
It was her will to win,
yeah.
and her desire to do the best for me, and her toughness.
Yeah.
She was tough and sound.
The chestnut mare for you.
I always used to call her the Queen Mother because she was sort of fairly short and sturdy, and just a great character. You know, just a total professional.
Yeah.
Not a needy horse at all. Not bar her ears, and you never in her whole life could you ever put anything over her ears.
Wow.
Everything had to be undone.
God.
Everything. And the day she died was I think it must have been 7 years ago, 1st of April, funnily enough. We were cross-country schooling at a friend's place. Beautiful day, and a lovely girl, working pupil, was just riding her. She was following me, and she just landed over a fence and she snapped her leg. And it was something that happens with old horses because the bones get a bit brittle. You know, she was tough, she was sound and everything. And we had about 15 minutes before the vet got there.
Yeah.
So I was patting her around and stuff. And then when they put her down, I still took her, undid her. I know.
Oh God, I'm being sad.
I'm all crying now.
That's really emotional.
But you know what? She was the most unbelievably ordinary horse. You know, with not the best movement, not the best jump, not the best gallop, but we made each other as good as we were. So you have to be feisty to ride her. And you had to be, and the other thing that really suited her, because that's the way I rode, I was always very accurate.
Right.
Probably too accurate for an eventer.
Okay.
So I always placed her where she needed to be placed for the type of jump.
Yeah.
So it didn't help me with other horses because I ended up being a bit particular.
Right. Okay.
But my career would never have been anywhere near what it was without her. So, you know, my career was all thanks to Brit. Yeah.
Well, that is really lovely. No, I remember growing up, I just always absolutely loved her. Mum and I are both really mare people, and she was just kind of like this mare in the spotlight. I feel like, that we'd always watch, we'd always look out for you guys at big events, and having the opportunity to have a descendant or some progeny from her is just really, really special. Okay, so other questions. I feel like we could sit and talk for ages. No. So she, from the Googling I've done, it says she was 15.3.
Yeah, on tippy toes.
On tip.
Yeah,
that's what I thought she was a bit
tippy
smaller.
toes. Yeah.
So how is going out on a now 5-star, but was 4-star back then, track on probably one of the smallest horses there?
Not only that, she wasn't big to ride.
So she was
you know, you can get some
general.
like shrimp. Belly shrimp is 15.1. You sit on him, it's like sitting on a 16.2.
Yeah.
Brit wasn't. She was a proper.
she looked and felt small.
Yeah. She didn't feel big, I promise you. And that was half the problem when I tried to sell her for the owners. They went, oh, you know, her neck wasn't very big, short striding, a bit on the forehand.
Yeah.
You know, and to make her into this, I mean, I think probably the most incredible feat, I suppose, on my training side was to turn her into this thing that could win the dressage.
Yeah.
And I remember Jenny Lawson-Clark seeing her at Burley in the trotter and goes, "Good Lord, Lucinda, what's that you're riding?"
I'll show you.
I went, I know. And I was pretty, sort of didn't know whether I really should be there. Yeah. Because it was her first 4-star, and Birdie's, pretty well one of the biggest ones. And then I came up the centre line, in the canter, and because she was so trained and so accurate, and she just could stay on the centre line. She always halted here, and you could literally count the strides round to where you went, right, medium trot. And she came across in the first medium trot, and it was like a little trick for her, but it was correct.
Yeah.
And then, her flying changes over the years got 10s.
Lovely.
Because you couldn't fault them. Expression, lift, accuracy. And I remember one of the best moments was doing the last couple of changes in Beijing at the Olympics, and of course the scoreboard's up here, and this is like, whatever, 9 o'clock in the morning, and I was sort of one of the last ones to go on the first day because of the heat. And came round, and there was this, you heard it from the crowd, and I'm like, one more change, Brit, one more change, and then tum, 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 hup. And it was like,
how
like,
can you see the board?
You do.
I would just be like, oh, and then just go the wrong way.
You try, to be fair, at some of the events you can. And you're like, oh, God, why am I only getting 6s? Come on, something's got to change.
I'm not retiring. I'm not even going to bother now.
But there, you felt this excitement.
Yeah.
You just felt it. And then you come round up the centre line, and she nailed the last halt as well. And it's like, yes. And it's like, oh, don't cry.
Oh God, I can honestly only imagine. It's just such a nice story. I think for me, it just gave me a lot of hope when I was growing up, because we didn't have all this money to buy really fancy horses. Yeah. And like you said, like you didn't bring her out of the stable and it was like this, oh, that's like a really, that's like an amazing event horse. It's like you had to work on her, and she had these faults, but you just did so amazingly well, and it's just really nice to see.
She's made a huge impact.
Yeah.
On the breeding, the British breeding, on people giving mares more time and more chance. The foreigners, you go to somewhere like the Leon, so many mares. You see very few geldings, in honesty. Even years ago, all the other European countries were perfectly happy having mares.
Yeah.
But the British were a bit stuck up about it.
Stigma.
And you ask some of the top riders, oh, I'm never going to ride a mare. I'm never going to ride a mare. But actually now, you've had a number of mares since Brit.
Yeah.
Piggy's mare won Badminton.
Yeah, exactly.
Mary King's won 3 4-stars. King's Temptress.
Yeah.
She was no oil painting. She was no,
Sorry, Mary.
No, but she wasn't. She was like Brit. She was just an ordinary type of horse. Not the best technique either. But the heart and the will. And
they do really try
yeah,
females,
absolutely.
don't they? A lot of,
yeah. So
a lot of grip behind them.
She did do a lot for, I think the world of mares.
Yeah,
I think it's given everybody.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, final question, because obviously I'm hoping to get a mini Brit. That would be lovely. Although I will be passing her on to Ellie to ride if it looks like it's going above novice, because I'll get way too scared. But what traits do you think she's passing on to her progeny?
I would say toughness.
Yeah.
Soundness, I think. I mean, the temperament, she seemed feisty and hot, but actually I made her like that.
Yeah.
Apparently she was terribly naughty as a young horse, like 4- and 5-year-old, like really.
I'll send my one away to be broken.
But you see, Marley is not.
Yeah.
He is and always has been a really lovely horse.
Yeah.
Temperament. You don't want anything that's too hot.
No,
And I've had a
exactly.
number of horses that have been brilliant, but not easy. And if they're hot, you've got to work them harder, they don't stay sound. You know, if they've got massive movement,
Yeah.
they're more difficult to stay sound. And you can train a lot. If they're trainable and they're basically, you know, got the good ingredients and a trainable brain,
Yeah.
and that will to help,
Yeah.
I suppose,
Yeah.
will to help you, I think is way more important.
Yeah,
So
I'd agree. And
hopefully
that's-
you'll get a lovely, lovely youngster.
That is really, yeah, what I'm hoping for. Personality is a massive thing to do,
Yeah.
because I'm not looking to breed a 5-star horse, but it's got to be something that I can enjoy and ride at home, and like this lovely girl, you
Yeah.
know, stand with them and fuss and put cameras in their faces and
Give them electric shocks.
exactly. Luckily that was off camera, that was an accident. I'm a bit static today. Well, thank you ever so much for your time, and make sure you continue following this series on YouTube, guys, because you're going to see a bit of Marley, who is Ron's half brother and Brit's son.
Yep.
Correct. Yeah, there's going to be plenty more. You'll see him hopefully being ridden by Ellie at some point, and hopefully I'll be able to put some pictures and any footage I can find of the iconic duo doing your thing and, yeah, setting the world alight. So thank you very, very much for your time.
That's right.
And
On to
stay
the next
tuned.
one.
Yes.